We're 12 years old this year, and we're a content marketing and PR agency. And it came about really from me working in different agencies and getting to the stage where I was just frustrated a little bit. The last agency I worked for, I was really the last thing. And I just thought, this is absolutely insane. We were still at the time where people would be paying for a web site to be done by a web agency, social media to be done by a digital agency, PR by a PR agency. And I just thought, actually, I want to have a be able to offer a service that does all of those things, because for me, they're just channels, to get a story out. And so I think we were sort of talking about content marketing before it became a bit of a buzzword, to be fair. So yeah, I kind of like to think that we were in ahead of the game. Do it, but make sure you've got spend some time on building your brand and do it. Don't just think I'm gonna try and do it on the cheap and that'll last. Or if you do that, make sure you've got something in place that you can revisit it quickly. I would say as well, spend time thinking about what you want your business to be, or at least what you want it to be over the next 3 to 5 years. And I know that's a really hard thing to say in the pandemic because obviously there's a lot of change, but where you want to be, try and picture yourself of where you want to be. Because once your business starts, you don't get as much thinking time as you do when you're really starting out. So, yeah, so branding, do your job well, and don't be freaked out by the fact that there might be loads of competitors, because actually, if there are loads of competitors, there's a real demand for that service. And don't try and be like everybody else. So I think quite a lot of businesses sometimes can be looking at competitors all the time. They're doing this, I think we should be doing that. They're doing this, yeah. Actually, you've got to find your own voice. You've got to find your own story, and you've got to find your own customer set that will get you. And there's an element of trust with that. There's an element of authenticity that needs to go with that. And so I think sometimes if you're looking at other people, you're not looking at your own business in the way you perhaps should be. And if you can't do that, get a business coach and just even do a few sessions, because they will challenge your thinking. Well, I have a very good book. Actually, I am a very much a list person. So I tend to have a kind of a longer term list, and also then a kind of, short term. In the morning, I work out what needs to be done that day. And I'm very strict about it. And, the quicker I can get through it, the quicker I can finish work. Um, I try now to make sure that I only do meetings at certain times of the week. So I've learnt when I'm more productive. Quite a lot of the pandemic actually has almost focused that for me as well, because obviously with homeschooling and running the business, it was very, very long days, and there was certain elements of my job that I cannot do at midnight, and there are some that I'm more than happy to do at midnight, because it's quiet in the house, and so the pandemic has kind of, I think, shone a light on sort of what your job actually entails and when's the best time you should be doing those particular jobs. But yeah, so lists, we have a project management system that the team uses. So we spent some time setting that up with kind of deadlines. We always work with false deadlines. I probably shouldn't say that because clients will recognise that, but we give everybody a false deadline, so that if the work isn't really spot on, there's a bit of time there before it needs to be signed off. Um, and yeah, I think that just recognizing kind of, how your week is going to pan out. One of the big things that I really learned early on was building in that sort of fail safe time. And the reason I did it was because fairly early on from setting the business up, I had flu and couldn't work for 2 weeks. And so all of those things that needed to be done in those 2 weeks, I was kind of like, actually, God, I'm going to have to either play catch up or. And that was a really, really good lesson. I think that was probably 4 or 5 months into setting the business up. But it was kind of, and it was only because we had a couple of clients with deadlines that needed to have that stuff for then. And so now that's the way, that's kind of influenced the way that we do our planning and our content planning and our PR work in particular for clients, so that there's a breathing space. So I do Pilates a couple of times a week. I also try and get up in the morning and do 15 minutes workout, and otherwise I just don't want to do anything during the rest of the day. And sometimes that can be like a 15-minute workout in my bedroom, or sometimes it can be like it was this morning. I went for a half an hour walk out. We're blessed with where we live. So just up into the forest, and just to have some headspace and get myself into the zone. But I also, I suppose, setting up the business, I mentioned about, sort of wanting to have that 50-50 childcare and be there for, I've got a daughter. And I don't ever want her to think that I'm doing childcare, but I'm not really in the room. She's really, really hard, sort of with mobiles and stuff like that. But I try not to have my mobile with me when I'm spending time with her, and unless it's to switch on music or whatever, but I try not to do that. So that has really, I suppose I'm quite strict with my time and how I am in the different roles that I have. So, when I'm working. And when I'm being a mum, I'm being a mum. Or, I think it's really important to, sort of be self aware and realize what you need to be productive and to be creative. And I think that's what a lot of the pandemic in the last year has kind of taught a lot of people about, kind of how much time you might waste, sort of in meetings that actually don't need to be an hour and a half, but actually could be 10 minutes and could be a phone call, actually. So I think we've always really been like that. And we've, the way that our working week has been like that, in a way, because we were working parents. Um, but I think that, if I can teach my daughter to be more self-aware early on in life, then I feel like I will have done a really good job. Yeah, well, I'm actually having some sessions with a business coach at the moment, because we're kind of really deciding what kind of direction we want to go in next. Um, so I don't know. You might have to come back and ask me that in a couple of months. I know the answer of that a bit better. I think we're both thinking about, how again we can offer, how we can be smarter with our offering, but how we can also be a bit slicker with kind of, reporting and feedback. And um, yeah, we're just, sort of, we're still mulling over kind of how we're going to do it. But on the whole, it's going to be the same thing as we've done for the last 12 years, because that's what we like doing. That's what clients like, and that's what we sort of, we think we're good at.